Hello, and thanks for joining us. From France's love of the Rocky Horror Show 40 years on to Captain America on the red carpet in Paris. Welcome to Encore's weekly film show.
Stay down. Final warning.
I could do this all day.
Many questions can be answered yes or no only by a moron or a slave.
I'm just a sweet transvestite.
The Rocky Horror Picture Show.
And film critic Lisa Nesselson joins us in the studio. Lisa, we'll talk about why your nationality is visible on the outside in just a moment. But first, we're only weeks away from the world's most exciting, glamorous film festival, Cannes. And the jury has been announced. Among those serving under Mad Max director George Miller, the president will be French actress Vanessa Paradis, French director Arnaud Desplechin, and actors Kirsten Dunst and Donald Sutherland. Joining them will be Hungarian director Laszlo Nemes, whose Son of Saul won the Grand Prize at Cannes last year and went on to win an Oscar, and the Danish actor Mads Mikkelsen. Lisa, what are your overall thoughts on the jury this year?
Well, these are all extremely accomplished people with a deeper than average appreciation of film as an art form as well as a business. So I think it's an interesting group of folks.
OK, we'll have to have it to see what they come up with. Well, several of those jury members have been guests on Encore. You can find their interviews on our website, france24.com. And the festival opens on the 11th of May, and we'll be keeping you up to date every day from the French Riviera with interviews and film reviews. Now, next, the cinema world is bracing itself for an onslaught of Marvel films later this year. Doctor Strange, starring Benedict Cumberbatch, Suicide Squad with Jared Leto, and the classic X-Men. What's your take on superhero films on the whole, Lisa?
Well, I've been thinking that previous generations honed their memories by memorizing a little Shakespeare or epic poems or sports statistics. I think now today's young people are devoting that portion of their brain to remembering which superhero was introduced in which sequel to which prequel to which what have you.
OK, well, let's hope so, because we need a bit of memory. There's also Captain America Civil War, starring Chris Evans and Robert Downey Jr. Nicola Hebden was at the Paris premiere.
All right, I've run out of patience. On to roost!
Hello, I'm Spider-Man, and you're watching France 24.
Would you save me if I was in trouble?
Of course, because I am a hero. No?
Iron Man. Iron Man. Captain America.
Captain America, ouais.
Et pourquoi?
Why?
Of all the superheroes, he's the best at war, he's the most courageous, the kindest, and the fairest.
We're used to seeing him battling baddies and saving the world. But in Captain America Civil War, Steve Rogers faced off against one of his closest allies, Iron Man.
This doesn't have to end in a fight, Tony.
You just started a war.
It's just it's inspiring to see youngsters and even some folks my age still enjoy these movies, you know.
If you didn't play War Machine in the film, which other Avenger would you be?
I don't know. That's a good question. I need to be one that has invisibility, and I don't know. I guess Wonder Woman? No, that's DC. I have no idea.
Why one with invisibility?
So I could sneak into places and watch people do stuff.
Are you Team Captain America or Team Iron Man?
Really? You're asking me that question? What do you think?
You, as Don Cheadle, who are you?
I'm still riding with Rhodey. I'm Team Iron Man all the way.
If you weren't playing Sharon, what Avenger would you be?
I keep saying the Falcon because I want to wear that costume. It looks so much fun. Of all the costumes, it looks like the most fun.
Don Cheadle said he wanted to be invisible. What do you think?
Invisible is cool too, but flying I think is cooler.
Consider all our options.
Because people that shoot at you usually wind up shooting at me too.
You know what's about to happen.
Do you really want to punch your way out of this?
We wanted to tell a story where when you got to the end of it, the audience would be very torn about who is right, and you could sort of argue with your friends about who is right. Both the characters are a little bit right and a little bit wrong in this conflict, and we think that's part of the fun of the storytelling. So.
This time, the superheroes were pitted against each other. We'll have to wait another 2 years to see if the Avengers get back together to save the world when the next Avengers film comes out in 2018.
What do we do?
We fight.
There we go, Nicola Hebden reporting there. Let's move on to the rest of the week's releases. Out in France is Trumbo, in which Bryan Cranston, best known for starring in Breaking Bad, plays the real-life title character. Now, Dalton Trumbo was a Hollywood screenwriter whose career ended when he was blacklisted for being a communist. Give us the background, Lisa.
I just want to say at the outset you referred to my appearance today, and that's just because I'm going to be forced to say creepy words like communism and Communist Party, so I wanted to make a patriotic force field to protect myself. Yes, Trumbo is a mordant slice of American history with important parallels for the present moment. As you mentioned, Dalton Trumbo was an award-winning screenwriter, and he was also a card-carrying communist, and that was a really problematic combination during the Cold War. It wasn't illegal to be a communist. It still isn't, but some powerful people thought it should be. You've probably heard of Senator Joseph McCarthy and his hearings in Washington, D.C. That was the House Un-American Activities Committee. They were absolutely outrageous. They would sit people down under subpoena and say, are you now or have you ever been a member of the Communist Party? And this was an anti-communist witch hunt that destroyed lives, destroyed careers, led to a blacklist that made it absolutely impossible for Hollywood studios to hire a writer, a director, a technician, or an actor who had any real or imagined connection to the Communist Party. And this was supposed to be a warning because they were going to sneak subversive ideas into American movies and bring down Western civilization. But we've forgotten that a lot of people joined the Communist Party because of the Great Depression, and also that the Russians were our allies in World War II. Here is Dalton Trumbo trying to find work after he's been released from 11 months in prison for contempt of Congress.
Trumbo, we can't afford you.
Well, how much did you pay for the script of that? Bad Men of Tombstone.
$1,200.
All right. I'll write you a movie for $1,200 then.
And you don't want your name on it?
No, you don't want my name on it.
You got that right. Especially if you're still, up to stuff. Oh, yeah?
Perpetually.
I mentioned that there are countless parallels to life today. There's an April 26th headline in the Washington Post, you can look it up, that says, quote, a majority of millennials now reject capitalism, poll shows. So God save us all, flag, apple pie.
Okay, well, out in French theatres as well, and this week is a Franco-Belgian Swiss documentary. It's called Free to Run, and it's about a time when running wasn't very cool. Tell us more.
You certainly wouldn't know it, judging by what people are wearing on their feet all over the world, and especially here in Paris. But not that long ago, in the 1960s, it was so uncool to be running in public spaces wearing shorts and a T-shirt that a lot of people only dared to do it at night, or they would jump into a ditch and hide if normal people were walking by. That's a lot of what we learn in this wonderful documentary, full of interesting interviews. 50,000 people registered for the very recent Paris Marathon. 43,000 of them crossed the finish line. Now, countless cities have their own marathon, but the first Boston marathons were just a handful of people, never more than a few hundred, elite runners, and what became the New York Marathon, snaking through all the boroughs of the city, started out as a few dozen guys who just like to get together and run on weekends. Irrepressible hustler Fred Lebeau decided they should try running in Central Park, which was considered at that time a really good place to get mugged or killed, and it opened up the world to the wonderful world of running. Here is one of my personal heroes, Catherine Switzer, the first woman to complete the Boston Marathon, talking about why being a runner was looked down upon, especially for women.
If you ran, you're going to get big legs, and you're going to grow hair on your chest. You're going to turn into a man. You're going to turn into maybe something else. You're never going to get married, never have children. That was my first big brush with discrimination. And I decided to play sports, be feminine, and be anything I wanted to be.
I started running, and it was as if I were operating a time machine in reverse. Suddenly, I felt better than I had felt probably in 20 years.
You wouldn't guess from looking at me today, but I'm here to say that from 1983 to 1987, I was lucky enough to participate in the invitational Run Up the Empire State Building. That's 1,575 steps, hoisting your body 1,050 vertical feet. Women can do that. And when the prerequisite was you had to have completed an ultra marathon. I can't even swim, but I wrote to them and I said, I live in an 8th-floor garret in Paris, and I do several Empire State Buildings, just going out to the bakery, getting the mail, etc. They invited me to do it. So I encourage everyone to run to the theater and see this movie.
You're a runner at heart. Okay. Well, just before we go, the Rocky Horror Picture Show is 40 this year, and to celebrate, it's being re-released in restored prints in France. But the film has always had a very special place in Paris's heart, hasn't it?
Oh, it's absolutely extraordinary, but over 500,000 people have seen it here in Paris, France, 80 at a time. The Studio Galland, which is literally a hole-in-the-wall, single-screen cinema that holds 83 people, has been showing it since 1978 every weekend, and it's hosted by people who act out the participatory aspects of it. It was a flop at first, this film. I saw it 40 years ago at a sneak preview at the Chicago International Film Festival. I saw those giant red lips. I turned to my companion and said, what is this? This was before we went back and threw rice and spoke back to the screen and learned to do the time warp. So it's extraordinary that it's being released in restored prints, but it has never gone away here in Paris. If you're ever here on a Friday or Saturday night, I can't think of anything more fun to do than to go to a building that is supposed to have the oldest sign in Paris. It dates back to the 1300s, and of course, Rocky Horror dates back 40 years.
Okay, my God, you're a feast of information, Lisa. Thank you so much for joining us. Now we're going to leave you with the Rocky Horror Picture Show. Remember our website. We're also on Twitter and Facebook. There's more news coming up on France 24 after this.
I'm just a sweet transvestite from transsexual Transylvania. So, come up to the lab and see what's on the slab. I see you shiver with anticipation.